Hey students, welcome to another Mr. Ness screencast. Today's aim is population control, and here are your objectives. Pause the video, look these questions over, and get ready to copy some vocab terms and take some notes. Population control is the attempt by a government to influence the birth rates of its citizens. Population control is extremely controversial, mainly because it means that the government is getting involved in areas that most people consider to be private, like their bodies or their sex lives or their relationships with their children. You've probably experienced this controversy in the form of today's abortion rights debates. The poster in this photograph, which shows an abortion rights protest in the 1970s, reflects this controversy. It says the state has no business in the wombs of the nation. So this woman feels that the state or the government should not be trying to control what she does with her body. We are going to look at a few different ways that governments try to control the population, and the first is through what are called pronatalist policies. Pronatalist, also called expansive policies, attempt to increase a country's birth rate. In other words, they try to get people to have more children. Pronatalism is used in countries with low birth rates and high elder dependency ratios because these countries lack young working age people. And as you saw in the last lesson, a high elder dependency ratio can have adverse effects on a country's economy. So pronatalist policies are an attempt to address and limit those effects. One way the government might do this is by restricting access to contraceptives or to abortion, perhaps by criminalizing them. And another more common approach is to give citizens some kind of financial incentive to have children. That could take the form of providing tax breaks for parents, cash bonuses for anyone who conceives a child, or offering paid parental leave, which means that parents can take time off work to raise kids without losing money. This map shows different pronatalist policies that have recently been used in different European countries to address the low birth rates and high elder dependency ratios there. You can see that Norway has provided paid parental leave. Poland and Italy and Spain have given parents a conception bonus, and France has provided tax breaks for large families. Now let's look at the opposite approach, antinatalist policies, also called restrictive policies. Antinatalist policies are actions that governments take to decrease birth rates, and we find them being used in countries that have high birth rates and high youth dependency. And the most common examples of antinatalism is providing increased access to birth control or abortions by making them affordable or even free. Another common example is providing education to young people about family planning, like demonstrating how to use birth control or teaching them about the financial strains that having children can cause. A more controversial one is penalizing people for having children, and that was most famously done in China with the one-child policy, which you'll learn more about in class. And an even more controversial method is promoting or even requiring sterilization. Oops, I spelled sterilization wrong in my slide. I'll tell you what that means in just a minute. Here are some pictures of government propaganda supporting antinatalism. This advertisement is from India in the 1960s, and it represents a form of family planning education, reminding citizens that a small family is a happy family. And this poster on the right, there we go. Let me move this over. Poster on the right is from China in the 1970s, and it's encouraging parents to have just one child. Okay, let's look at sterilization, and here I have spelled it correctly. Sterilization is a surgical procedure that results in permanent infertility. For women, sterilization is called tubal ligation, and it involves cutting and tying the fallopian tube so that eggs cannot reach the uterus and be fertilized. And for men, sterilization is a procedure called a vasectomy, and it involves blocking the pathway that sperm travels from the scrotum to the penis. When promoted by the government, sterilization is considered antinatalist because it leads to permanent infertility, which means that men or women who have been sterilized can no longer have children. The last term today is eugenics. a movement to encourage certain genetic traits in a population and discourage others. In other words, eugenics tries to get certain groups of people, the people with the so-called good genes, to have more children, and tries to get other groups of people, the ones with the bad genes, to have fewer children. Eugenics is therefore both pronatalist and antinatalist, depending on who is being encouraged to have children and who is being discouraged. Eugenics is extremely controversial because it is historically linked to racist ideas about which people's genes are better than others. And you will look more at the history of eugenics in class. All right, it's time to review the objectives. If you don't know the answer to any of them, rewind the video and look again, and I will see you in class. Bye, students.